He had spent most of his life drifting between stars, and he preferred it that way. Captain Elias Mercer was not a hero in the stories told by the Galactic Council, nor was he a soldier remembered in old war songs. He was simply a human salvager flying an aging cargo ship called the Quiet Horizon. The ship's hull carried scars from years of travel through asteroid belts and abandoned sectors, but it still moved forward just like him. The Quiet Horizon floated slowly through a graveyard of broken metal and silent wreckage. Pieces of ships drifted like ghosts, turning slowly under the distant light of a dying sun. Elias sat in the pilot chair, watching the sensors while sipping warm tea from a metal cup. Humans were known across the galaxy for many things: stubbornness, strange humor, and a dangerous sense of empathy. But Elias mostly thought of himself as tired. His scanners suddenly beeped, breaking the silence. A faint signal appeared on the screen, barely strong enough to register. "Life sign detected," the ship's computer said in a calm voice. Elias frowned. Life signs were rare in dead zones like this. Most survivors were long gone or already rescued by patrol ships. He adjusted the sensors and leaned closer. The signal came from a small escape pod drifting among broken ship fragments. Its power levels were almost gone. He hesitated. Rescue laws were complicated. Some species came with political consequences, especially if they belonged to protected or disputed groups. Independent captains like him could get dragged into conflicts just by helping the wrong person. But he also knew what it meant to be alone and afraid in space. He guided the Quiet Horizon closer, using gentle thrusters to avoid disturbing the debris field. The escape pod rotated slowly, its surface cracked and burned. One of the viewing panels was frosted from inside. "Docking clamps ready," he muttered. The ship connected with a soft metallic sound. He waited for pressure equalization before opening the airlock. Cold air rushed past him as the pod door slid open with a tired hiss. Inside was a young alien girl curled tightly against the wall. Her skin shimmered faint blue under the emergency lights, and thin glowing lines traced across her arms like delicate patterns of light. She looked fragile, breathing shallowly. Elias approached slowly, keeping his movements calm. "It's okay," he said gently. "You're safe now." Her eyes opened suddenly. They were wide, filled with fear so strong it almost felt alive. She tried to move away but was too weak. The translator module in the room activated, struggling to interpret her words as she spoke quickly in a trembling voice. "Please don't send me back. I will stay quiet. I will be good. Just let me stay." The desperation in her tone surprised him. She wasn't asking for rescue. She was begging for permission. He raised his hands slightly, showing he meant no harm. "You don't have to say anything right now," he said. "You need rest." She watched him carefully, as if waiting for a hidden threat. Slowly, her body relaxed just a little, though her eyes never left him. He carried her carefully into the medical bay. The scanners showed signs of exhaustion, dehydration, and stress, but no severe injuries. He gave her water and covered her with a warm blanket. For several hours, she slept. Elias returned to the cockpit, but his thoughts stayed with the stranger. Her words echoed in his mind, "Let me stay." When she finally woke again, she sat upright quickly, scanning the room like a frightened animal. "You're still here," he said from the doorway. She stared at him, confused. He offered her a small bowl of soup. Human food. Easy to digest. She hesitated before accepting it. Her hands trembled slightly. "What is your name?" he asked. She looked down at the bowl before answering. "Lyra." "I'm Elias," he said. Silence followed as she ate slowly, watching him between bites. The translator struggled but improved with each sentence. "You rescued me?" she asked. "Yes." She seemed confused by that simple answer. "Why?" he shrugged. "Because you needed help." She frowned, as if that explanation did not make sense. Most species in the galaxy worked through contracts, alliances, or profit. Helping without gain was considered unusual, sometimes suspicious. Humans had earned a reputation for unpredictable kindness, and many aliens didn't know how to react to it. Lyra finished eating and looked around the room. "You will not send me away?" she asked carefully. "Not unless you want to go," he replied. Her shoulders relaxed slightly, though tension remained in her posture. Over the next few hours, she spoke little. Elias didn't push her. Instead, he focused on routine tasks, checking engines, sorting salvage logs, and repairing a damaged antenna. Eventually, she followed him into the engineering bay, curious. The ship hummed quietly as he worked. "You live alone?" she asked. "Mostly." Humans do not fear isolation. Sometimes, he admitted, but space gives you time to think. She watched him fix a broken circuit with steady hands. There was something calm about him that made her breathing slow down. Days passed, and she began to explore the ship. She touched surfaces carefully, as if afraid they might disappear. She seemed fascinated by small human habits, drinking tea, listening to old music, and talking to machines. One evening, she suddenly stepped closer to him, studying his face. "You are different from what I was told," she said. "Is that good or bad? I do not know yet." He laughed softly. She began helping with repairs, revealing surprising technical skill. Despite her young appearance, she understood complex systems quickly. Sometimes she would pause, eyes distant, as if sensing something beyond normal perception. Elias noticed but didn't question it. One night, alarms flashed briefly before shutting off. Elias checked the system logs but saw nothing obvious. Unknown to him, the damaged escape pod's internal tracker had reactivated when power returned to the ship. Somewhere far away, a signal was received. Lyra woke suddenly, breathing fast. She looked toward the stars outside the window, fear returning to her eyes. "They will come," she whispered quietly, though Elias did not hear. For the first time since being rescued, she realized safety might not last forever. And yet, as she watched the human captain quietly working, she felt something new growing inside her: hope. The quiet horizon moved slowly through open space, leaving the dead debris field behind. The stars ahead looked calm, but inside the ship, a quiet tension had begun to grow. Lyra stood near the observation window, her hands lightly resting on the cool metal frame. The galaxy stretched endlessly before her. It was beautiful, but to her it also felt dangerous. Every bright star could hide someone searching for her. Behind her, Elias worked at the control panel. He noticed the way she kept glancing at the sensors. "You're watching for something," he said calmly. She did not deny it. "Yes." He turned his chair slightly. "You think someone is following you?" She was silent for a long moment before nodding. "They will not stop," she said quietly. "My kind, we are not allowed to leave." Elias studied her expression. There was fear, but also something deeper, shame, as if she believed escaping had been wrong. "You are not owned," he said firmly. "No one gets to decide your life like that." She looked at him with confusion again, like in the first hours after her rescue. "In my world," she replied slowly, "choices are assigned." "Well," he said, leaning back, "in my world, choices are fought for." She watched him carefully, trying to understand this human logic. Over the next few days, the ship entered a quieter trade lane. Elias planned to stop at a small refueling station near the outer rim. It was a neutral port, not heavily monitored by the Galactic Council. He needed supplies, and the ship's fuel levels were low. Lyra seemed uneasy about docking. "Many ships," she said. "Many eyes." "We'll keep things simple," he assured her. "You stay inside, I'll handle the supplies." She nodded, but her glowing markings dimmed slightly, something Elias had started noticing. When she was calm, the lines on her skin shimmered softly. When she was afraid, they faded. The station came into view, a ring-shaped structure rotating slowly around a small artificial gravity core. Ships of different designs hovered nearby, smooth silver crafts, bulky cargo carriers, and sleek patrol vessels. As they approached, Lyra suddenly stepped back from the window. "There," she whispered. Elias checked the external cameras. A long, narrow ship with dark plating was docked at the far end of the station. Its design was sharp, almost aggressive. "You recognize it?" he asked. She swallowed. "Not that ship, but the shape. That faction uses similar builds." Elias felt his jaw tight. "Could be coincidence," he said, though he didn't fully believe it. He guided the quiet horizon to a quiet docking port. Once attached, he turned to Lyra. "Stay in engineering, lock the inner doors. If anything feels wrong, contact me." She hesitated. "You are not afraid." "I am," he said honestly. "But fear doesn't get to make decisions for me." She watched him leave through the airlock. The station was crowded with traders and travelers from different species. Elias kept his head down, moving quickly through supply vendors. He purchased fuel cells, fresh water, and spare parts, but he couldn't ignore the feeling of being watched. Across the corridor, two tall figures in dark armor stood near a data terminal. Their helmets concealed their faces. They were not buying anything. They were scanning ship logs. Elias continued walking, pretending not to notice. Inside the quiet horizon, Lyra sat alone in engineering. The hum of the engines usually comforted her, but now every sound felt sharp. She closed her eyes. Her species possessed empathic abilities, the power to sense emotional patterns across short distances. It was not mind reading. It was more like feeling waves in water. She focused carefully. Fear, suspicion, aggression. The emotions brushed against her senses like distant thunder. Her eyes opened quickly. They were on the station. She rushed to the communication panel. Elias, she whispered urgently. His voice came through, low and steady. I'm here. They know, she said. I feel them searching. There was a pause. Docking release in 2 minutes, he replied calmly. Prepare for immediate departure. Outside, the armored figures began moving faster through the corridor. Elias reached the ship just as station security alarms flickered briefly, likely triggered by unauthorized data access. He sealed the airlock and ran to the cockpit. The dark-plated ship detached from its dock almost instantly. Of course, he muttered. The quiet horizon pushed away from the station, engines powering up. Lyra, strap in, he called. The sleek enemy ship accelerated behind them. A message flashed across Elia's console. Return the asset immediately. This is your only warning. Asset. He felt anger rise in his chest. She has a name, he said under his breath. The enemy ship fired a disabling pulse that grazed the quiet horizon's shields. The ship shook violently. Lyra gripped her seat, breathing fast. I do not want you harmed because of me, she said. You're not the cause, he replied. They are. He steered toward a nearby asteroid cluster dense enough to interfere with targeting systems. The chase intensified. Chunks of rock spun around them as both ships weaved through narrow gaps. Elias' hands moved quickly across the controls. The quiet horizon was older but built strong. It could take a few hits. Lyra closed her eyes again. She focused not on fear this time, but on direction. There, she said suddenly, pointing left. They will fire. Elias trusted her instinct and rolled the ship sharply. A pulse shot past where they had been seconds before. You can sense that? He asked. Yes, their intent shifts before they act. Then keep talking, he said. She concentrated harder, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. They are angry, she whispered. They did not expect resistance. Another pulse struck a nearby asteroid, breaking it into fragments that scattered across space. Elias used the debris as cover, cutting power briefly to reduce their signature. The enemy ship overshot slightly. Now, Lyra said. Elias powered up and shot forward through a narrow gap the larger ship struggled to follow. The asteroid cluster thinned ahead, opening into clear space. They will call reinforcements, Lyra warned softly. Probably, he agreed. He redirected power to engines and shields, pushing the quiet horizon beyond safe limits. Minutes passed in silence except for the hum of stressed machinery. Finally, the enemy ship's signal faded behind them. Elias didn't slow down for another hour. When he finally did, the ship floated in the quiet darkness of an unmarked sector. Lyra remained seated, hands shaking slightly. It is because of me, she said again. He turned his chair to face her. No, he said firmly. It's because some people think control is more important than freedom. She looked at him carefully. Humans fight for strangers, she asked. Sometimes, he replied. Sometimes that's when it matters most. She stared at him for a long time. On her world, power decided worth. Here, this human risked his life without demanding payment. You could have left me at the station, she said. Yes, but you did not. No. Silence filled the cockpit, but it was no longer heavy with fear. It was filled with something steadier, trust. Lyra slowly stood and walked toward the observation window again. For the first time since escaping her world, she did not feel like prey. Behind them, far in the distance, the hunters regrouped. But inside the quiet horizon, something stronger than fear had begun to form. A bond built not on ownership, but on choice. And that choice was beginning to change everything. The quiet horizon drifted in the shadow of a broken moon, its engines powered down to reduce detection. The metal surface of the ship still carried small burns from the chase, but it remained strong. Inside, the lights were dim and the silence felt heavy. Elias sat alone in the cockpit, studying the star maps. He knew the hunters would not stop. They had resources, influence, and patience. He had one old ship and limited fuel. Running forever was not a real plan. Behind him, Lyra stood quietly. Her glowing markings were brighter than before, but not from fear. Something inside her had changed during the chase. She had seen a human choose risk instead of surrender. They will search sector by sector, she said softly. I know, Elias replied. He turned the screen toward her. Several nearby systems appeared on the map. There is an abandoned relay station near this sector, he explained. Old communication hub, mostly forgotten. If we reach it, we can send a long-range transmission. To who? She asked. To anyone willing to listen. She stepped closer to the console. You think others will help? I think truth spreads faster than fear, he said. She watched his face carefully. Humans were strange to her. They carried doubt and hope at the same time. They powered the engines slowly and moved toward the relay station. It was an old structure floating near a dim red star, partially damaged but still functional. Large antenna arms extended outward like frozen branches. As they docked, the station groaned slightly under the pressure shift. Inside, the corridors were empty and dusty. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Lyra walked beside Elias, her steps careful. This place feels forgotten, she said. Sometimes forgotten places are the safest, he replied. They reached the central communication chamber. The main transmitter console still had power, though unstable. Elias began connecting the Quiet Horizon systems to boost the signal strength. Lyra stood still, eyes closed. She could feel something distant, not close enough to identify, but present. They are not far, she said quietly. Elias nodded. Then we don't have much time. He turned to her. If we do this, there's no hiding anymore. They'll know you're alive and free. She hesitated. Her whole life had been controlled. Her species was trained from youth to obey. Escape was considered betrayal. Fear had always guided her decisions, but now she remembered the moment in the escape pod when she had begged to stay. She had spoken from fear then. This time she wanted to speak from choice. I do not want to hide, she said. Elias gave a small nod. Then let's make some noise. He activated the transmitter. The old station vibrated as energy flowed through ancient circuits. Open channel, he said. Lyra stepped forward into view of the recording lens. For a moment her voice did not come, then she began. My name is Lyra of the Urundel, she said slowly. I speak by my own will. Her translator carried her words across the signal waves. My people are not property. We are not tools we feel, we think, we choose. Elias monitored the transmission strength. It was spreading far to trade lanes, patrol routes, even minor council channels. Lyra continued. I escaped because we are kept against our will, used for our abilities, denied freedom. Her hands trembled slightly, but she did not stop. I ask not for war, I ask for recognition, for truth. The signal echoed into space. Moments later, alarms flashed. They've located us, Elias said. Through the station window, a dark ship dropped from hyperspace, the same faction that had chased them before. A message appeared on the console. Stand down. Return the asset immediately. Elias felt anger again at that word. Lyra stepped beside him. They will not negotiate, she said. Maybe not, he replied, but others might. The dark ship positioned itself outside the station, weapons charging. Another signal appeared, this one from a different direction. Two human patrol vessels emerged from hyperspace, responding to the emergency broadcast. The hunters hesitated. A communication channel opened automatically. This is Captain Mercer, Elias said calmly. We are broadcasting evidence of illegal containment and exploitation of sentient beings. Lyra uploaded stored data from her escape pod, records, transport logs, classified directives. The information spread through open channels. The hunters transmitted again. You are interfering in lawful operations. Lawful does not mean just, Elias replied. More signals appeared on the screen, independent traders, small defense fleets, even a minor council observer requesting clarification. The hunters' position became unstable. Their authority depended on silence. Exposure weakened them. Lyra stepped forward again. I stand freely, she said into the open channel. No human forces me, I choose to remain. The human patrol captain responded. Statement acknowledged. Protection protocols activated. The hunter's ship shifted position, uncertain. For a tense moment, it seemed like battle would begin. But politics often moved faster than weapons. Additional council signals demanded investigation. Trade alliances questioned the legality of the hunter's claims. Slowly, the dark ship powered down its weapons. This matter is not concluded, their final message stated. No, Elias said quietly, but it has begun. The hunters retreated into hyperspace. The relay station fell silent again. Lyra stood very still, staring at the empty space where the ship had been. They left, she whispered. For now, Elias said. Human patrol ships remained nearby, ensuring safe departure. Later, back aboard the quiet horizon, repairs began once more. The station had drained some of their power reserves, but the ship was intact. Lyra moved through the corridors differently now. Her steps were steady. "You are not afraid?" Elias asked gently. "I am," she admitted, "but it does not control me." He smiled slightly. "That's the human part rubbing off." She tilted her head. "Is courage always loud?" "No," he said. "Most of the time it's quiet." She thought about that. Days passed as they traveled toward a neutral system under temporary human protection. Messages continued spreading across networks. Some species expressed support. Others remained silent, but the story could no longer be hidden. One evening, Lyra stood beside Elias in the cockpit. "You could return me to my people," she said. "Now there are protections." "I could," he replied, "but what do you want?" She looked at the stars ahead. For the first time in her life, the question felt real. "I want to see," she said slowly. "To learn, to choose." He nodded. "Then you stay," he said simply, "not as a passenger, not as a rescued asset." As crew, the quiet horizon adjusted course toward open space once again. The galaxy remained vast and uncertain. There would be more challenges ahead, investigations, political tension, perhaps even danger. But something had shifted. A single act of compassion had exposed injustice. A single voice had challenged silence. And a human who once drifted alone now had someone standing beside him, not because she begged to stay, but because she chose to. As the ship disappeared into the star field, Lyra felt something stronger than fear. Belonging. And far beyond them, across distant systems, whispers of change had already begun.